Okay guys, we're back on to the next part of getting this design done and on a t-shirt. So where we left off, generally we hadn't saved anything. We just had finished the design, and I'll say now, and I'm going to explain this right now also, but get in the habit of kind of, especially if it's something fairly extensive, get in the habit of saving your design frequently and save it as the SVG format, what you're working with. So I'll kind of explain what I'm talking about. So right now we're in an SVG. This is a vector graphic, and you have the ability to save this as a SVG. You can save it as a bunch of different things like a PDF and everything else, but the ones that you're going to be mostly interested in is a SVG and a PNG. The PNG means that it'll be without a background when you save it. If you save this as a JPEG or a JPG, it would actually they can only save them as a square, so it would actually have a square behind it of white, or if you chose a different color and put behind it or whatever, but that would be a JPEG. Versus a PNG, there is no background, so you'd be able to see through the graphics, see the t-shirt behind it, and that's what you want for t-shirt graphics. But then you also have this third file, the SVG. This is the workable file. So as you're working on this file, like with Inkscape, what they'll do is like how that says drawing 11. I did actually already save this because I wasn't for sure when I'd make this next video, but I went ahead and did it now. But so when you could, like, if I hadn't already done it, if I'd click Control S now, it would come up and it'd give me the option to save it as drawing 11 SVG, and that's because I have 10 other drawings saved. But anyway, so that's going to save it as a workable file, and you want that especially if you have some type of file to where you're like for instance with this file, let's say, will it be easy? And some shirts we want to say nope, some shirts we want to say yep. So we'll leave it as a drawing so that then we can come in, we can just reload this file, and it's still going to be in pieces for us like that. And even if it's grouped like this, and we save it, when we come back in, if it's an SVG, we can ungroup it. If we save it as a PNG, it's going to pixelate the graphic, or not a PNG, yeah, PNG. It's going to pixelate the graphic, and we're not going to be able to manipulate these elements anymore. So make sure that you save as an SVG. So we've got that already, and I'll do it again. And you see that little asterisk sign right there, right in front of the drawing. That means it hasn't been saved. There's been changes since the last time it's been saved. So I'll hit Control S now, and you see that that had disappeared. So now we've got our SVG graphic saved. Now the next thing we want to do is go ahead and right click it, duplicate, and then we want to just pull off a copy of it to the side. And then that way, no matter what, we've still got this original graphic, still good to go. The one thing you want to make sure that you don't do is from here on out, you don't want to save this as a... if you just click Control S, it's going to save over this file, and you don't want that. So for right now, you're not going to save anything or nothing like that. So we've got our graphics separate. We've got this as our original graphic, and this will be the graphic that will also... we'll actually export this also as a PNG, but I want to play with it first, see what it's going to look like. I may have to change the graphic to make it look right on a shirt, so I haven't saved this as a PNG. So we're going to use this one for our mock-up. So what we'll do is we'll come over here, and I actually picked out this awesome pic of Ronald Reagan. So I'll right click that, copy image, paste it. Alright, so now we've got a pic of Ronald Reagan there, and we've got the t-shirt design for Ron, and what we'll do is we'll come up here and we're gonna just scale that thing way down. And size at this point doesn't matter. I know you've heard different, size does matter, but at this point, no, size doesn't matter. Okay, and now this is a perfect example. So see how I slid it up, and you can see the outline of it, but the graphic, you can't see the graphic. That's what these are for. The only time that they're functionable, like if I'm in drawing squares or nodes, that function's not there. So you have to be in selection mode. But see, then you have move it to the lower section selection to the bottom, lower one step, raise one step, raise to the top. And what we want to do is we want to go ahead and just raise it all the way to the top. So now it's on the top. So and that's the funny thing. Like, I don't know if you're familiar with like Photoshop or GIMP or something like that, but in a in a program like that, you're working in layers. So like what we would do, we wouldn't want these two on the same layer. Well, with Inkscape and probably with Illustrator or any other vector graphic, it kind of naturally works in layers because everything is like everything you do, it layers in that order. So if you want, like if I did say I did will it be easy, and then I did no, will it be easy, and then I start over again and do nope. Nope will be on top because it was the last one I did. If I want nope on the bottom, then I would highlight nope and I'll hit down 1. Then it would be underneath will it be easy. I hope that makes sense. But again, my plan is to kind of go through this stuff over and over so that it kind of drills it in your head and you can see it in action versus trying to memorize all of Inkscape, because 80% of Inkscape's functions you're not going to need. You can do a whole lot with just a few functions that I'm showing you, and that's why I'm doing it this way. So anyway, now we got our graphic on top. We got a neat picture of a previous president. And what we want to do is we want to scale it down to about the size that we're going to want it on the shirt. Something like that. Okay, and as you can see, it just looks like a graphic setting on his shirt. I mean, it doesn't look like it's part of his shirt. There's some tweaking involved with this because we've got these huge differences in the graphic. I can tell we're already going to have problems as far as this is going to still, the black is probably just going to stand out too much and everything else. So what we can do, we can come in here, we can ungroup this. Now this is for the mock-up only. As far as the graphic that's on the shirt, you want the graphic itself to look the way you want it to look. Now with the mock-up, see how much more boldly the orange is on this and this. The words, is a little less, and then these are way less. One thing that you can do, like if we want these to stand out more, we can just pick both of them and then duplicate maybe 2 or 3 times. So see, that's darker now, so that's good. And that made that bold enough to where that's not going to stand out too bad. Now the black stands out so much, so what we'll do is we'll go ahead and pick both text that are in black. Then we'll come over here to the opacity. If this isn't open, the tab is going to be fill and stroke is what you're looking for. So you go open that. This is your fill and stroke tag. This is where you control your fill, your stroke paint, your stroke style, all color adjustments, hue, everything, saturation. But what we're worried about at this point is this opacity. And what we're going to do is we're going to take that black and we're just going to bump it down. And all I'm doing is I'm just scrolling my mouse. You can click or whatever, however you want to adjust that. But now see it at like 87, 88, it starts looking more like it's not quite as bold. You know what I'm saying? And we want to even it out. It's still not going to look great yet, but we want to get it to where the graphic kind of looks where everything's kind of the same hue or whatever. And we can do the same with these because they're awful bright. Now you wouldn't want to do this on the finished graphic. You'd want to use completely opaque for your graphics. Otherwise, the color of the shirt's going to kind of show through your graphic. And plus, typically, when they go to print it, it's either going to like not print very well at all, where you have made it semi-transparent, or it's going to just go ahead and print it full transparency anyway. So this is, again, it's an example. You'll see later in videos how I actually do the shirts, but this will show you how to do a good mock-up. And this is kind of an extreme case because the colors are so different, but it's a good example. So we'll tone that down until it kind of looks, again, like there. See, that looks a lot more like it's part of the shirt. So now what we can do is back up, and like when you're doing your selection, like if I was to grab here to try and select that, if I was to grab here, I'd move the picture. So what I need to do is come off of the edge of the photo of the image here, and then I can drag out like that. Then I'm able to grab all that and I'll group them together again. Alright, and then now I have all that selected. We can come back in a little bit and just kind of get a better idea. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring it down probably about 90, and that's going to kind of fade the whole graphic out just a little bit. That's 90. And then what you want, and like this right here, is generally going to be the middle of the graphic. So that helps the things that you want to watch out for is the angle of their shoulders, like this right here, and then also the center of the graphic being in the center of the shirt. So these two lines here are going to show you kind of how where the center of the shirt is, because you just want to look at the middle of the throat of the neck right there, and it'll usually line up pretty decent. And then most of the time, now this one's kind of weird because of the angle. He's slanted, and he's also he's skewed, I guess you would say. So this will actually skew the design. This will actually rotate the design. So if and the way that you can go from just clicking on the graphic, you'll see how the arrows change directions. And these will just pretty much pull whatever direction they're that you grab, or you can push in. And then once you do that, then these will skew like so, and then these will rotate. And what you want to do is kind of split the difference. I don't use skew a lot, but this photo is a little more angled than I usually mess with, but it's a good example. We'll see if we can get it to work. Now, because I've skewed it so much, it looks like I've went a little too far, so I might straighten it back up. Something like that, maybe. Okay, and we're still centered up pretty good. Kind of looks like it's laying across his chest fairly decent. We've got the opacity turned down a little bit so that it doesn't just look like, and what I'm talking about. You see it when you see a mock-up that's done to where it just looks like just the text was thrown over the top of the shirt. You can tell. I mean, so I kind of like. Let me back up a little bit. I kind of like the angle and everything. It looks. I would say that could go a little bit more like that, and maybe over just a hair. That'll probably work. All right. And what's going to kind of the final touch of what's going to make this look even more so that it's on top of the shirt is you want to go ahead and make sure that you have the photo itself clicked, not the graphic. Because now, still they're two separate entities at this point. So choose the photo, right click, duplicate. And you notice that your graphic disappeared. And that's because this photo, when you duplicated it, it laid it on the top. So the graphic is right underneath this photo. Now what you do is you can come back and usually down to about 20 or something like that. And this is but see how you can play with it? You can bring it up. That's a little too faded looking, but you can bring it down until it looks, again, you're just trying to give it that look that it's actually on the shirt. And between these two, between bringing the opacity down on your graphic and then also duplicating your image and then bringing the opacity down on it until everything starts to because when you bring down the opacity on the graphic, like this is still going to stay a little darker, you know what I mean, because it's a shadow. So that shadow is going to kind of lay over your graphic. See how that kind of looks like it's tucked in? That's because of the opacity of the the more we bring that up, the more tucked in that looks. Of course, also the more faded it looks because this white's showing. So you got to find that balance, and generally a good starting point for your as far as the opacity for your graphic is somewhere around 90, and then for your photo somewhere around 20. Now sometimes it could be 80 and 30 or whatever, but it's a good starting point is to take your graphic itself to around 20, and then or around to 90, and then the photo to 30. That doesn't look too bad. I don't like the design. I'm not super impressed with this whole endeavor, but it kind of looks like Ron's wearing a shirt. I mean, that's what we was going for. Now, so at this point we've got this photo twice, and then we've also got the graphic. So when I swing around all that, it's picked up both photos. It's selected both photos. It's also selected the graphic. So now what you want to do is right click and group. Now it's all one piece. All right, now we don't want this whole picture. And like a lot of times I share things on Instagram. That perfect photo size for Instagram is 1080 by 1080. So you'll come over and grab your rectangular tool, create rectangles and squares. You're going to throw out a square. Don't worry about the size or the shape necessarily. And then you go to your selection tool. While this is still selected, you'll come up here to width and height. Width, again, like I said, 1080 height, 1080. All right. Oh, that's not gonna work. All right, 1080. Okay, now that, like I said, it's a pretty good size for a lot of different stuff. I use it for Instagram. It also works on Facebook ads and stuff like that. And so generally this now, as you can see, we've got our transparency still matches this photo. Now it's all to 100%. It's saying it's done, but remember we had the photo down to 20, so when we drew this, our opacity was still down at 20, so that's 20, and that's fine, because all we want to do, we want to be able to see through that, and you can actually change it to red because it shows up better, or blue, or something that's going to, in this case, probably red would be better anyway because the sky's blue. But see, you want to be able to see through it, but then also this is going to be the frame of your photo more. It's going to be here in a minute. We're going to actually crop it to this size. And the one thing you do want to make sure is that you do not have a stroke. It's called a stroke, but you have the potential to put an outline around this, but you don't want that at this point because that'll change your 1080 by 1080. And how you can make sure that you don't have is with it selected, you hold down on Shift, and then you'll come down here and click this white X. Okay, I knew that it was already off, but I was going to show you. So let's put one on, just for the heck of it. So we'll put a black one on there. So you notice that this went up to 0.56. So if you come in here and look real close, it don't show up much, but it's because it's transparent. But anyway, see right there's our black line. Now if we hit Shift and none, it's got to be selected. If you hit Shift and none, now that black line is gone, and that's what you want. You want exactly 1080 by 1080, because what will happen is you'll go to save it, and it'll actually be off how much ever that outline was. All right, so we got all that done, and now what we need to do, we're going to take our picture of Ron here, and we're just going to use a little of our imagination and kind of try and get it to where we think it would look good, cropped to that size. He can be a little bigger. And again, you got to remember, that's too big. Oh, shoot. And when you're moving stuff, always be holding your central and control, control and Shift, like I'd mentioned in the first video, to keep things square. See how it's moving. Everything's moving at once. It's just changing the size. It's not changing the dimensions of the photo. It's just changing the overall size. All right, you can't have it hanging off because that'll leave a white edge. So what you need to do is come down here, make sure everything's in the photo. It don't look too bad. All right, now cropping with Inkscape is a little weird, but once you get used to it, it's not that big of a deal. So we've got our area selected. This is where we want it, and then we've got our compilation now that we have with the two photos and then the graphic. We'll drag around all of them. All right, and then right click, and then we'll do set clip, and that leaves just our photo. Okay, so this is our mock-up. Now this is a poor example, but I'm just kind of showing you. You can do this on anything. There's actually a lot of graphics out there that would lend itself a lot better to create a mock-up with than this, but I wanted to show you that it's possible to make your shirt look, or make your design look like it's on pretty much anyone's shirt if you want to. So anyway, here's our 1080 by 1080. This is what we can use as a creative for our sale, for our ads and anything like that. So these are the two graphics that these are the two creatives that we're working with. Okay, so first, for starters, what we need to do, we're going to select this. Now when it comes to export, we're going to export a PNG image. Now first, and actually you can save it just like this, even with the mock-up, and see how it's drawing and it's showing it hasn't been saved. So right now I could go Control S, save. Now it's saved exactly like it is. So my mock-up saved as SVG, and my graphics saved as an SVG. Okay, so now we still have our 45 by 5400 here, and what we're going to do is I'm just going to leave that full size, but what I was wanting to kind of show you is I'm going to show, I'm a visual person, so let's say we wanted a smaller graphic like that. Understand that this 45 by 54, that's the area on the t-shirt, and we're going to save this area. We're not just saving this, we're saving this whole area, so that when we go over to Amazon, this is going to sit where we want it to sit. You know what I'm saying? So if I do like that and save it like that, when we send this to Amazon, it literally, this is going to be your shirt area. That is where that graphic would set within that 45 by 5400 on the Amazon mock-up. So keep that in mind. Like in this case, like I said, we're just going to go full-blown size, but if you're wanting it higher or lower, if it was just like, if it, just one text across the top of the chest, you'd want to go maybe like right here or whatever. But just remember that this square represents the area that you have to work with on the Amazon t-shirt. It takes a little imagination, and sometimes it may take a couple tries, but anyway, like if I move it down, then that's where it's going to be on the shirt on Amazon. It's going to be on the lower part of that 45 by 5400. So just remember that. If you wanted, dead nuts in the middle, you can do an align and distribute. Bam, that's right in the middle. And that'll work fine. And it's something you'll have to play with back and forth. But okay, so we got, this is going to be our graphic. That's going to be our creative for marketing purposes. Now we're going to go to export PNG image. If it's not there, let's see. Oh, you'd go to file, export. Right there, export PNG image. Again, I leave these open, so I always forget where this stuff is. But anyway, go to file, export image, and then that window will come up here. All right. Now for this one, for this graphic, we want to choose page because it's going to save that 45 by 5400. It says at 90 pixels. This is a huge graphic, though. This, and it works great. It's and you're going to export that as you go to wherever you're going to go. You go to documents, and then what I do is I'll say on this one, we'll say we'll say is it worth it? Okay, and then .png. That's important. .png. So is it worth it? .png. Save. All right, so now we have our graphic saved. This is the actual upload that we would put to Amazon. That file was. Now on this one, what we'll do with selection, selection 1080 by 1080. That is our creative for our marketing. And we're going to export that. And this is how I do it. Export as. And see how we've got is it worth it? That's this graphic. Now I'll go is it worth it? And I'll come right back in there. Dash mockup dot. I gotta put the dot back in because I deleted it. So anyway, we got the same thing. Documents, is it worth it? Mockup.png, export as. All right, so we've got the new graphic, and then we can export. All right, now if you come over here and you look, and you'll see, go to documents, and then as you'll see, is it CDFGHI? Is it? There's Ronald right there. Is it worth it? There's his mock-up. And I do this all the time. What I forgot to do is export. You got to do that, and then you got to come down here and export. Oh, I guess I already did. Is it worth it? Mock-up. All right. Yeah, the mock-up. And then is it worth it? Where's my graphic? Oh, crap. All right. I think I forgot to save it. So now we go to page, export as, documents. Now we're doing it backwards. I forgot to say. I do that all the time. I don't know why. It seems like I would learn. So we'll find is it worth it. And what had happened was, is it worth it mock-up. And then we'll just take the mock-up part off. Save. Export. 45 by 54. Yeah. Alright, so now we go back to documents. And we should be good to go now. Is it GHIJ. Right there it is. Okay, so we got our graphic, and I'll show you. See, it has no background. It's just the graphic itself. That's what you would upload to Amazon, and then this is our creative that we would share. And again, that's the picture's terrible. Everything else, it's just an idea of how to do it. Most, you can look on my website. Most of the mock-ups look pretty decent. This is an old picture, and I had to fade the graphics out to make it work and different stuff like that, but it gives you an idea. As time goes on, I'll show you some different tricks and techniques, and you'd want a better quality photo, at least one without so much film grain, because that's just hard to match. So anyway, guys, right there, that maybe it could seem a little overwhelming right now, but understand, I mean, there's just not a whole lot to this. Then you step up your game from here. So anyway, that's the long and the short of it, guys. This is the creatives and the graphic and creative that you'll wind up with this process. I'm going to do some more videos. If you got any suggestions about or questions or whatever, information that you'd like to know, if I can help at all, just let me know. Just in the comments below, ask whatever you need to ask. And if you like this and you'd like to see more, make sure you like and subscribe. It's going to kind of be probably, I don't honestly know, maybe 8 or 10 designs I'll do kind of like this, to just where we're just playing with Inkscape and kind of showing you what can be done and what can't be done. Then maybe we'll get into some marketing, like to actually make up some better mock-ups and some different stuff like that. But I'm going to keep it really basic and straightforward for right now, and hopefully you guys will learn some stuff and get out there designing your own stuff instead of waiting on somebody else to do it for you. But anyway, this is Jesse. I'm going to sign off now. If you want to check out my designs or anything, you can head on over to themerrymango.com. The link will be in the description. Feel free to like and subscribe, and any comments or suggestions, feel free to post them below. Thanks, guys.